These are the craziest purchases billionaires have ever made. From everyday objects to insane mega projects, these rich people are spending tons of cash on things nobody needs. Let's dive in with number 16. A haircut. $19,000. This haircut has got to be the most expensive in the world, and it's paid for by the Sultan of Brunei. But why is it so expensive? Well, we can tell you. He only gets his hair cut at one specific barber who's based in London. But the Sultan does not live in London. You can see the problem here. Every time he needs a haircut, the Sultan has the barber flown over from London to Brunei. Then, of course, he has to arrange accommodation for him. And because he spent so much cash on this haircut already, he makes sure to take good care of his special barber to ensure he stays healthy enough to give the Sultan the perfect cut. Some people will pay anything for the perfect haircut, but we'll leave you to look at the photos and decide if it's really worth all that money. And speaking of everyday things that definitely shouldn't cost thousands of dollars, number 15. A handbag. $261,000. Nita Ambani is a philanthropist and the wife of Mukesh Ambani, the man behind India's most valuable company, Reliance Industries. That means her husband is worth a mind-blowing $95.8 billion. In other words, it seems she can have anything she wants. And that probably explains why she is the proud owner of Hermes Himalaya bag. This handbag is said to be the holy grail when it comes to luxury handbags. It's made from the hide of Nile crocodiles and colored to resemble the snow-capped Himalayan mountains. It's unclear if she owns the Birkin or the Kelly version of the bag. If it's the Kelly, then it's also adorned with more than 240 diamonds and is accented with 18-karat gold hardware. How much does that bejeweled croc skin sell for? 261 grand. Would you pay that much for a handbag? We won't judge. I guess the handbag at least has a practical use, even if most of us would be too worried about it being stolen to ever take it out of the house. But the next purchase on our list wasn't even what the buyer really wanted. Number 14. James Bond's car. $997,000. It's no secret that Elon Musk loves expensive gadgets. Anyone just needs to take a look at Tesla or SpaceX to see that. Sure, he's not the world's richest man anymore. That title belongs to Jeff Bezos now, but Musk is still worth an incredible $267.6 billion. Maybe even more, and that means he can literally afford anything he wants. So, when he spotted the James Bond Lotus Esprit submarine car that featured in the film The Spy Who Loved Me, Musk didn't hesitate to bid way more than it was worth to ensure he got his hands on it. It might have helped that the car almost never made it to auction. Weirdly, back in 1989, a couple from Long Island, New York, got involved in an auction themselves. There, they bought a storage unit for $100. But this was a blind auction, which meant they had no idea what was inside or even if it was totally empty. When they finally broke the lock and opened the door, they found the 1976 Lotus Esprit. It was the same one used in the film, nicknamed Wet Nelly because of the custom-built submarine adaptation in the movie. It eventually ended up at the auction where Musk bought it for an eye-watering $997 grand. Then he was pretty disappointed when he realized there was no button inside that turned the car into a submarine. Apparently, Musk didn't realize that movies aren't real life. But also, he's Elon Musk, which means he vowed to upgrade it with a Tesla electric powertrain and to try to make it transform in real life. I guess you're allowed to think like a little kid if you have the money to back it up. This car apparently served as Musk's inspiration for Tesla's electric Cybertruck. But we don't think the next item on this list will be much of an inspiration for anyone. Number 13. A gold toilet. $1 million. Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah was worth an impressive $18 billion at the time of his death in 2015. But before he passed away, he left a pretty big mark. He seemed to dote on his daughter and treated her like a very spoiled fairy tale princess. It started when he bought her a wedding dress worth $3 million. But that wasn't enough for him. As a wedding gift, he needed to go big, and he did. He surprised her with her very own solid gold toilet. Nobody knows exactly how much he paid for it, but anything made of solid gold will always come with a gigantic price tag. We can guess the price though, because she's not the only one who owns one. The rapper Birdman got one installed for $1 million. So we're guessing the one the princess was given is at least equal in price, but probably a little extra. A gold toilet seems like a pretty useless purchase. Could the next one be worse? Maybe. Number 12. A dusty old photograph. $2.3 million. William Koch is one half of the billionaire brother duo who famously created the Koch Industries empire. It's the second largest privately owned company in the US, which puts their wealth into perspective. Personally, William is worth an admirable $1.6 billion. But when he's not busy being a super successful businessman or getting involved in politics, he's got a pretty interesting hobby. He's obsessed with the history of the Wild West. What does this have to do with his purchase? Well, back in 2011, he paid an unbelievable $2.3 million for a fading photograph. It sounds like an insane thing to do, but it wasn't any old photo. It was the world's only authenticated photograph of the legendary outlaw Billy the Kid. Does it sound cool enough to match the $2.3 million price tag? We'll leave you to decide. Number 11. A 14-foot dead shark. $12 million. We all know billionaires love exotic pets, and that often includes a giant fish tank filled with brightly colored tropical fish. Sometimes you might even see a fish tank taking up an entire wall in a mansion. But if you ask billionaire fund manager Steve Cohen, he'll tell you that there are no fish tanks big enough to match up to owning your own shark, even if it is dead. You'll be pleased to hear that Cohen was not responsible for the shark's death. Here's what happened. In 2004, he bought what might be the world's most unique and controversial piece of contemporary art. It's a 14-foot tiger shark preserved in a tank full of alcohol and formaldehyde. The infamous Damien Hirst artwork is titled "The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living," and it dates back to 1991. When it was first let loose on the art market, the weird installation was purchased for $93,000 in 1992 by art mogul Charles Saatchi. But Cohen bought the piece more than a decade later when its value had gone up significantly. We don't know exactly how much he spent to get his hands on it, but New York Magazine reported the sale to be somewhere between $8 and $12 million. We can't imagine wanting to buy what's basically just a dead pet. But the next person spent even more money on something that was once an everyday object. Number 10. A notebook. $30 million. Bill Gates has got to be interested in anyone capable of changing the world with one invention. After all, that's exactly what he did when he founded Microsoft. But his interest in great thinkers cost him a shocking amount of money back in 1994. But what did he buy? A notebook. Okay, in his defense, it wasn't just any notebook. It was the Codex Leicester, a 72-page manuscript compiled by the great artist Leonardo da Vinci in the 16th century. It's not an art book, though. It's more like a set of scribbles and indecipherable handwriting that record his ideas for new inventions. So it's obviously an interesting object. But how much did Gates spend on it? A whopping $30.8 million. We're guessing he then had to pay for Italian lessons too, just so he can read his crazy expensive notebook. Think that's a weird thing to spend so much money on? The next item on our list might be even weirder. Number 9. A badminton cabinet. $36 million. Before we get started with this entry, we should mention that we have no idea what a badminton cabinet is. It turns out it's not actually a thing you can buy. There's only one of them in the world. It also has nothing to do with the game badminton. The gigantic piece of furniture was commissioned in 1726 by Henry Somerset, 3rd Duke of Beaufort, and it was named after the Duke's country mansion, Badminton House. It took 30 expert crafters 6 years to complete, and it's made of Florentine ebony and finished with precious stones like lapis lazuli, agate, and amethyst quartz. It's also the most expensive furniture in the entire world. In 1990, it broke the record when it was sold for $16.59 million. But in 2004, Prince Hans Adam II of Liechtenstein decided he wanted to get his hands on it. He outbid everyone else and broke the previous record for most expensive piece of furniture that was achieved by the same cabinet and had never been beaten. This time, it fetched an incredible $36 million. It still sounds like a lot of cash for a cabinet. Furniture isn't known for being that expensive, but the next item on our list kind of is, except this one is expensive for a very different reason. Number 8. A diamond-encrusted car. $48 million. Okay, we know rich people spend insane amounts on cars, but this isn't a vintage Porsche or a collectible Bentley. It's a pretty ordinary Mercedes-Benz. Sure, it's a pricey car, but you don't need to be a billionaire to afford one, unless you're the Saudi prince Al-Walid bin Talal. He had an idea and was willing to spend an insane amount of cash to get it. He requested a Mercedes that was studded with real diamonds. How much does it cost to cover a car in diamonds? $48 million. We would have understood spending insane amounts of cash on an incredible car, but this is just millions of dollars to look flashy. Still, at least it's a car. The next item on our list is even more expensive and makes even less sense. Number 7. A balloon dog. $58.4 million. Great art is always going to fetch a high price, but this one isn't to everyone's taste. That's because it's literally a balloon animal. Yes, we mean the kind of balloon dog that clowns make for kids at birthday parties. This one, by famous pop artist Jeff Koons, is made of stainless steel, and it's tall enough to sit on. But, as we said, it's a balloon dog. So you have to wonder why the billionaire Peter Brandt, who's worth $2 billion, chose to spend a shocking $58.4 million on it. Look, we're not judging. It's not like we're art experts. It just seems like a weird choice to us. Would you spend that kind of money on a giant orange balloon dog? Let us know. That's a lot of money to spend on any art. But to find out what our next purchase is, we need to jump up by almost $200 million. Number 6. A newspaper. $250 million. Okay, we've misled you a little. Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, would never spend $250 million on a newspaper. He would spend all that to buy the entire newspaper company, though. In this case, it was the Washington Post that he decided he wanted for himself. The famous paper once took down a presidency, but it wasn't some big corporate publishing machine. It was actually owned by the Graham family for 80 years. In 2013, the Amazon founder decided he wanted it and paid the price to take it out of the family's hands. The Wall Street Journal rightly called it an out-of-the-blue deal. Bezos later admitted that he probably should have done a little more research. It turned out that he just took the family's first offer. We still don't know why he wanted it so much in the first place. That seems like a crazy thing for a billionaire to want, but the next purchase on our list is even more unexpected. Number 5. A not-so-private island. $300 million. We all know that rich people love buying private islands. You don't even need to be a billionaire to get your hands on one, but this island is a little different. Why? Because it's not private. Founder of Oracle, Larry Ellison, bought up the Hawaiian island of Lanai. The island isn't a quiet retreat where nobody can find him. Instead, the 90,000 acres is home to 2 Four Seasons resorts and a town with a population of 3,200. In 2012, he dropped $300 million on the tropical holiday destination. Why would he choose this spot instead of a totally private hideaway? We're not sure. But a luxury vacation on the island cost a reported $21,000 a night. So that might just explain the seriously expensive purchase. But apparently, Ellison has made the island his home. We know it's unusual for a billionaire to choose to live in a crowded resort town, but it's nowhere near as weird as the next purchase on our list. Number 4. A new Titanic. $567 million. Super yachts are becoming an essential item that most billionaires are dropping insane amounts of cash to own. But Australian businessman and politician Clive Palmer had different ideas. He's worth more than $23 billion, which means he can have anything he wants. And what he wants is a new Titanic. Yes, we're talking about the ship that was involved in possibly the most devastating maritime disaster in history. It's currently lying at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean since sinking back in 1912. We would probably do anything to avoid getting on another Titanic, but Palmer isn't concerned. He commissioned the Titanic II, hoping to create an almost exact replica of the doomed 9-deck White Star Line ship. It will even include the grand staircase featured in the 1997 movie. Yes, we said the movie, not the original ship. Since Palmer is also known for creating a park full of animatronic dinosaurs, we think he's probably just obsessed with blockbuster movies and is trying to live out his childhood dreams. But you'll be glad to hear his Titanic project hasn't worked. It was meant to be completed in 2018, but there's no evidence that it exists. Hopefully, it never will. But that was a huge loss for Palmer, who reportedly spent a mind-blowing $567 million on the project. I'm sorry, Clive, but everyone could tell it was doomed from the start. Palmer was trying to recreate a dream, but the next person on our list was just making a space for a hobby he already had. Number 3. A custom museum. $800 million. Sure, billionaires take pride in their art collections, but billionaire telecom tycoon Carlos Slim took this to a whole new level. He's the richest man in Mexico, and was even the world's richest man for a while back in 2011. Currently, he's worth an astonishing $71.4 billion. That means he had more than enough money to create a palace for his art collection. The ambitious project is called the Museo Somaya, and it's a pretty incredible site. It's a 6-story high, metallic, windowless art museum that looks like it landed here from outer space. And it costs Slim an astounding $800 million. That seems like an offbeat choice because he has enough money to visit any museum in the world. But then again, I guess he figured it was worth it because he owns more than 65,000 pieces of art, including some of Europe and Mexico's most priceless works. I guess you can't store all those in your house, even if it is a mansion. But on the other hand, the next person on our list might have something to say about building projects. Number 2. A custom skyscraper. $1 billion. Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani inherited and controls an oil empire that has slowly increased his net worth to an estimated $43 billion. What do you spend all that money on? Ambani had an idea. He built one of the most unique private homes in the world, a 27-story, 400,000 square foot skyscraper. Each floor has a double-height ceiling, and the property boasts 3 helicopter pads, 6 underground parking levels, a ballroom, a 50-seat theater, and 9 elevators in the lobby alone. About 600 staff members are required to maintain the bizarre house. It's also insanely expensive, costing a whopping $1 billion to construct. I guess a custom skyscraper was always going to come with a giant price tag. The last item on our list is something a lot of people would probably want until they saw the cost. Number 1. A basketball team. $2 billion. Steve Ballmer used to be Microsoft's CEO before he handed over the position to Sundar Pichai. It's not surprising he chose to retire. After all, he has a net worth estimated at $102.6 billion. He doesn't need to work another day in his life, but he did choose to make an interesting purchase. He bought the Los Angeles Clippers. Sure, that sounds like a fun hobby, but we bet you can't guess how much it cost Ballmer. The team came with a mind-blowing $2 billion price tag. If it were me, I would have just gone on holiday forever. Think billionaires are the only ones making insane purchases? Think again. There's another group of people famous for flashing their cash. Can you guess who they are? Check out our list of the most ridiculous purchases made by famous rappers.